Listen, being a Saints Row fan has its ups and downs. Rapid artistic changes, the lack of news over the years, it can all be frustrating, but very few aspects of liking Saints Row are as annoying as trying to justify the existence of the series as a whole to people who aren't fans. From the very beginning, Saints Row has been labeled as a Grand Theft Auto clone, an unnecessary cash grab to capitalize on Grand Theft Auto's success. And while the rapidly growing success of GTA undoubtedly played a huge part in the creation of Saints Row, it had plenty of new ideas to bring to the table, even some aspects that would later be added to Grand Theft Auto itself. For several years, Saints Row was treated like a blatant knockoff, and as a longtime fan of both franchises, I'd like to explain, to the best of my ability, why this is an unfair and, to me, a flat-out incorrect critique. In 2003, then THQ developer Volition, known for games such as the Descent and Red Faction series, began development on a PS2 exclusive open-world crime simulator entitled Bling Bling. After a vigorous, expensive, and exhausting development cycle, they eventually released an Xbox 360 exclusive open-world crime simulator entitled Saints Row in 2006, quite obviously undergoing many changes during development. This was Volition's first open-world game, a genre that is seemingly quite difficult to get into, and while the original Saints Row is certainly rough around the edges, it's still a very solid game in my opinion. Not only do I like it, but it seemed a lot of people at the time did, more or less. Saints Row sold well and received generally positive reviews, but critiques on the actual game were very often overshadowed by comparisons to the top dog series of the open-world genre. Listen, I'm not here to say that there aren't clear inspirations. I'm not even here to say you can't compare them. The thing that bothers me when people call Saints Row a GTA clone is the implied notion that they can't coexist. To me, this is like calling Sonic the Hedgehog a Mario clone. Sure, they're both 2D platforming side-scrollers, and yes, they were direct competitors, but they both have clear distinctive features. People like both for different reasons, just like people like Saints Row and GTA for different reasons, and I'm here to explain why. Keep in mind, I'm pretty much only going to be focusing on Saints Row 1, and this is so I can hopefully prove to everyone that Saints Row had individuality from the very start. And for the GTA side of things, I'll generally be focusing on San Andreas. Not only because it was the most recent Grand Theft Auto at the time, but because, like Saints Row, it's heavily focused on the street gang lifestyle. I'm not going to go incredibly in-depth with story comparisons, but San Andreas puts you in the role as Carl Johnson, a former gangbanger who returns to his home in Los Santos after the death of his mother. At first, you're put in the typical scenarios: steal some turf here, spray some tags there, the usual, but this doesn't last forever. San Andreas quickly becomes a tale of betrayal and corruption, and without spoiling much, CJ basically kills everyone who wrongs him and ends up on top, all while becoming a great businessman in the process. It's kinda similar to Saints Row 2 in a way, rebuilding your old gang, plotting revenge on your betrayers, but maybe that's for another time. Saints Row puts you in the shoes of an unnamed civilian turned gang lieutenant, focusing almost entirely on gang-related activities. There's a bit of corruption and betrayal, but not until the very end of the game. For the vast majority of the campaign, everything you do is about throwing hits to other gangs and growing your own. San Andreas often travels off the beaten path for numerous subplots before putting you back into the main storyline, while Saints Row has different storyline branches that don't relate to each other, but are linear within themselves. Basically, you have 3 smaller plot lines, and in the end, there's a big finale. The ending is also much different. San Andreas leaves you satisfied. Saints Row leaves you feeling confused and upset, but in a good way. The ending is much more melancholy, possibly even making a statement on how bad gang culture can get. I previously said in my review of the first Saints Row game that the story is almost on par with San Andreas in terms of quality, and while I don't necessarily agree with this anymore, it's still far from a knockoff. Saints Row tells a different tale, and it does it quite well. San Andreas and Saints Row both have solid maps, but San Andreas has one of the best open-world maps of all time. The best way, in my opinion, to make a great open-world map is variety. San Andreas has ghettos, downtown areas, beaches, rural areas, the desert, I could go on. Saints Row didn't go as in-depth, but it's still a great map. We have the ghetto, we have downtown, we have a shitty little beach area. Admittedly, as much as I really do enjoy the first iteration of Stillwater, Volition didn't go all out with their map until Saints Row 2, although the level of map variety in the sequel might even trump the map of San Andreas. A couple things I will give Saints Row credit for, though, are Warp to Shore, which basically means if you're in a big body of water or the ocean or whatever, all you have to do is press Y and you teleport to land. You don't have to swim there like in GTA. And also, the full map is unlocked from the very beginning of the game. In most GTA games, you have to play through the story to unlock the whole map, and that's kind of annoying to a lot of people, so I'm happy that Saints Row doesn't have that. These are both open-world crime games where you steal cars, kill innocent civilians, and generally terrorize the city that you're dropped into, all while the cops try their best to end your mass destruction. This is the clearest and easiest comparison to make. They're very similar, but is that really enough to brush Saints Row off completely? The core gameplay is similar? GTA had influences too. Plenty of them. The key to making original art is to take your influences and give them your own unique spin. Some of the features that Saints Row introduced before the Grand Theft Auto games of its time include, but are not limited to, full character customization, ragdoll physics, story characters as homies, better vehicle customization, garages that hold 64 vehicles at a time, default free aim on console as well as shooting with the triggers, gang notoriety, on-foot radio, GPS for waypoints, regenerating health, distinctive gangs with different areas of expertise, a more fleshed out respect system, consistent mission branches, a weapon wheel, a variety of crazy side activities that actually affect story progression, an interactive cell phone, holdable consumables, and online multiplayer, as well as online gangs and ranks. This was the first game of its kind to let you play with someone who wasn't in the room. And this was one of the biggest selling points, as well as what the reviewers of the time seemed to enjoy the most about the game. San Andreas had local multiplayer and of course the modded online, but nothing official. Saints Row may share similar core gameplay to its competitor, but it brought new ideas with its arrival, even going as far as to possibly influence GTA itself. As just mentioned, Saints Row did online first, but perhaps the biggest and most unique aspect of Saints Row was the ability to create your own character. A bare-bones character creator became available in GTA 4's online mode, and the feature was eventually fleshed out in GTA Online. The vehicle customization of Grand Theft Auto has grown to compete with the level of detail available in Saints Row. You can now go into corner stores, buy drugs, and take them whenever you please. Snacks like food in Saints Row will increase your health and can be held on your person whenever. They've added side activities that are much more interesting than they used to be, a lot more in line with Saints Row's list of activities than, say, San Andreas. Ragdoll physics, shooting with the triggers, GPS for waypoints, regenerating health, a weapon wheel, cell phones, they're all in GTA now. Hell, they even added something similar to the gang system from Saints Row 1. Using Rockstar Social Club, you can make your own gang in GTA Online and invite your friends. I can't definitively say that Saints Row directly inspired GTA to make these changes, but I wouldn't be surprised if Saints Row played at least a part in some of GTA's innovation. At first glance, Saints Row just looks like a cheap attempt at being the first open-world crime game on Xbox 360, trying to beat Rockstar to the punch and steal some of their sales, but when you take a further look and consider the painfully difficult development cycle of the game, I find it hard to think anyone would maintain that sentiment. Saints Row had innovative features and individuality from the very start, and it would only continue to get more distinctive as the series went on.